Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Stewards Show. And happy to have you with us. Happy to finally wrap up our review of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I'm laughing because Mark said earlier this is going to be a really short one.
Like we say with every episode.
We were going to do this book in 3 episodes, but it's been 3 already, and we're doing one more.
One more, but we promise this will be the last one.
a short one.
Yeah, it's probably quicker to actually read the book than to listen to our review.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
But we got chapters 8 and 9, and then we'll do an overall review. So, any highlights from chapters 8 and 9, Brent, that stood out to you?
We should ask our listeners if they have any questions. Any questions, anyone? I don't hear any. Maybe we do phone calls on this episode?
Yeah, okay. We'll take some phone calls from the field.
Give us a call at 1-800-RICH-DAD. I guess. So chapter 8 and 9, Robert gets into kind of summarizing what we've gone through so far and then giving some action steps.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to the previous episodes that we kind of went over the book, definitely changes your thoughts around thinking about your personal finances and the value of saving, the value of investing, and owning assets versus owning liabilities. Mm-hmm. All of these different concepts that we already talked about. And he also talks a lot about the education system, right? How our current system is kind of set up to make people who are getting a good job, getting a secure job, making lots of money, but not necessarily keeping all that money and being financially savvy with it and investing it. They're kind of just spending it on whatever, and then they need to go back to work. So they're basically working for money.
Yeah.
So the chapter starts, there is gold everywhere. Most people are not trained to see it. And then he gives a list of 10 different habits or ways that you can kind of put into practice all the different concepts he went through his book.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to go through these, or that kind of?
I think we would pick and choose a few, right? Number 1, have a deep emotional reason or purpose for doing what you do, a combination of wants and don't wants. And so there's a theme maybe running through our podcast as well in our review, that Kiyosaki, he has a lot of very good practical advice financially. But then at the heart of it, he's missing the mark. And, can you blame him? He's not a Christian. He didn't write this as a Christian book, but this is how we're looking at it. So, even in that statement, have a deep emotional reason or purpose for doing what you do, a combination of wants and don't wants. So for a lot of people who've been influenced by this book, that deep emotional reason or purpose is to secure my financial future or my family,
maybe some examples of that,
future.
just I don't want to work for all my life, or I don't want what my parents had, I want something better, or I don't like being an employee, or I hate working hard, and then the government takes all my money until I die, basically. That whole attitude, right? Yeah,
and there's a common theme of ego, right?
Yeah.
And we know we're not living for ourselves. So all of those things are not necessarily bad things in the right context, but when the reason is just for, deeply for yourself, right? That's not, that doesn't really jive with the Christian viewpoint, but I think there's a way to make that work. And so we'll go through that, but just kind of have that in the back of your mind as you're listening, or if you're reading the book as you're reading it, that deeper purpose, is to serve God and to serve others, not to serve yourself.
Yeah. And that's kind of the namesake of the show, right? Stewardship, where you've been given all of these things, your financial gifts, your income, right? If you talk about this book, you talk about earning an income every day.
Yeah.
What do you do with it? Well, it's actually not your income. It's been given to you and trusted to you, right?
Yeah. And so, do the best you can with what you're given. And this, this book can be one of the tools to help you do that. So, there's a lot of,
on the practical side too, like it's kind of having a why, right? What's your reason for doing this? And if you don't have something in your head about why you're doing it, then it very quickly demotivates you when you hit an obstacle and you're like, you know what? I'm not really doing this for any reason. I'm just going to stop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so when he talks about it, he's talking about like saving money, putting money aside and then investing money and doing all those things. Like you have to have a purpose. Otherwise you're going to see your friends out partying on Saturday night. You're like, hey, why am I working so hard and not spending money on those things? Why don't I just go do that? Because that looks like way more fun.
Well, and for people in maybe a church setting, like the same thing applies. So maybe we realize we're not going to go party on a weekend or whatever. And, as you get older, your priorities change.
Maybe you're not going to go on 10 vacations a year like all the other people.
Well, but there's the danger, right? Yeah. Like, those people can afford a couple vacations a year. Like, we need it just to de-stress, or it'd be good for the kids, or like you can always find a reason, right? Or I need a boat. Nothing wrong with boats, right? But there's certain things that are more acceptable. And I don't know, if you have your priorities straight, that's fine. But like, what are your priorities? And have you actually sat down and been like, look, I'm devoting this, I want to devote X amount of my income to kingdom work or to helping other people or to whatever it is.
Have you set a goal? It would be good to give, X number of dollars a month.
Yeah. Or maybe at the end of 10 years, I want to be able to do a certain thing, right? Donate X amount of money or buy this thing that we need, or, do something downtown, or in my neighborhood, like whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Have a goal. So, anyways, we can go on about that for a while.
Well, and then the other thing he points out too is if you don't have a reason for doing something, then all the rest of the stuff that he's talking about is going to sound like way too much work, right?
Yeah.
So we can get into some of the other stuff.
And that but it just makes sense, because if you look at people in your church who are active in doing stuff, there's always that certain group of people who really do everything, right? And maybe it's that the 80-20 rule again, striking. But usually when people have a defined reason, they understand why they're doing things, and they've really examined their life and what it's worth and what it's for, then it makes sense for them to put in the effort to do all this stuff. Because you look, some people are like on a lot of committees and then do all kinds of other stuff that you don't see either necessarily, but sometimes you kind of find out like, oh, they're doing this and that and involved in all kinds of other stuff, right? And you're like, how could they possibly have the energy and time to do that? But they have a reason. And usually that involves just sitting down and discussing with your spouse too. Like, how do we want to live our lives? What do we want to do? So in that way, when you're reading this book, like, you don't apply it just to yourself and to your financial goals, but look at your life. Yeah. And look at it with a spiritual lens.
Well, that goes into the next one too. The next one is understanding the power of choice and choose daily what to do. And include choosing the right habits and educating yourself. Yeah. So because I guess what's the saying? When people let life happen to them, and if you wake up in the morning, you don't really have a reason, and you don't have a plan. Yeah. Then life will just unfold for you the way it did every other day. And you might wake up in 10 years and go, hey, why didn't I achieve whatever you said, a boat? I always wanted to own a boat. Why don't I own a boat? Well, but that could apply to anything, any goal that you set, right?
Well, I mean, it could be learning scripture. Yeah. More, right? Because you're like, oh, my minister, like he can pick out these texts at random. And like, if you're talking about something, he knows like, oh, here's a text that applies to that. And maybe you kind of know it vaguely, but like, oh man, I guess, he went to seminary. So no, you don't get that just from going to seminary, right? And there's other people. If you have a goal of sitting down daily and reading the Bible, and learning it, that's going to have an effect on your life. And maybe in a couple of years or 5 years, you'll be able to have these, to be able to pull these texts out and use them in various situations in your life or somebody else's life. It's just becoming a more competent Christian overall. We talk about becoming a more competent investor.
Yeah.
And
you need both, right? You
need both.
And that, I don't know, maybe it's underestimated, but the power of knowing the word and then also having the financial literacy, when you get in a situation, you can make a wise decision quickly, right? So you get kind of educate yourself in all areas.
Yep.
And that is something Robert does kind of say too, is the power of education, investing in education and learning and building your financial literacy, but building your education in all different areas so that you can make better decisions quicker, make less mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's just a wise piece of advice.
Yeah.
He gives the example of somebody who, a friend of mine recently had her apartment burglarized. That means not burgers. I mean, somebody stole something.
I would like my apartment burglarized. Get home and there's burgers everywhere.
Yeah. Came home and there was just juicy cheeseburgers. No, the thieves took her electronics and left all the books. So and his point was, we all have that same choice, right? 90% of the population buys TV sets and only about 10% buys business books. So he's just making a comment like, how much could you learn with the TV versus how much could you learn with the books? Which ones are more valuable or could have a greater impact in your life, over the long term, right? You'd steal all those books. Well, you actually could have got a lot of wisdom and made better decisions. Maybe you didn't have to burglarize someone's apartment.
Actually, that reminds me of a meme that I've seen, which I don't know how accurate it is, but it's like a picture of a pile of books in like a market, right? Like just stacks and stacks of books. Yeah. And I think it goes something like in Iraq, which is kind of like, does this happen everywhere in Iraq or is it like one specific area? But anyways, point is, in Iraq, they just leave the books out like in the market stalls overnight because they have a saying. And again, I don't know how true this is, but like there's some wisdom here, right? That like thieves don't read and readers won't steal.
Yeah.
So they're not worried about people stealing their books. They wouldn't leave a TV out, but books they will, because like who's actually, someone who understands the value of a book isn't going to probably steal it.
Yeah.
So same concept.
Yeah. Because if you're stealing a TV, your intention is to probably sell it, or like assuming you already stole a TV last week, you probably already have one.
Yeah.
You can't watch that many TVs. You're going to sell it. So, but it's a shame that the market values TVs so high compared to books.
Exactly.
Anyways, let's go on to the next one. We're going to do this very quick.
Yeah, we don't have to hit all of them, but choose your friends carefully.
Far, we're on 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah, choose your friends carefully, and that is right. So his
that's
point
why
is,
I'm such good friends with Mark.
Yeah, nobody said we were friends, Brent.
I'm going to burglarize your apartment.
Please burglarize it. Choose your friends carefully by leveraging the power of association, being careful not to listen to poor or frightened people. So he's sort of right and sort of wrong, right? The reason for choosing your friends for him is to leverage association. So you want successful friends who can introduce you to other successful people.
Yeah.
And like practically speaking, I guess that makes sense. And don't listen to poor or frightened people. And that also kind of makes sense, because why would you take financial advice from someone who has no
money,
no financial chops, right?
Yeah.
People always think they know what advice to give, but the proof's in the pudding, I guess, or the proof of the pudding is in the eating, is how that expression goes.
I don't know, but now I'm hungry.
You want pudding now?
And burgers.
We always come back to food on this podcast, eh? I don't know how that works. But yeah, the point of having friends, again, should be for your spiritual upbuilding.
Yeah.
Not for your financial.
And for their upbuilding too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To be a friend. So yeah, that falls a little bit flat in my opinion, but at the same time, it is advice that is good to consider when you're thinking about your career, especially, or your financial well-being. And
yeah, I mean, choose your work associates wisely for sure.
Yeah,
in that sense, right? I mean, but there's always, I don't know, for a Christian, there's always, it's not just what can you get, but what can you give. So if you are making those associates, then you got to give him the gospel too.
Well, he ends with basically insider trading, where his friends give him insider information.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, in a certain sense, like if you have friends who are, especially we deal with real estate, right? If you have friends who are, say, real estate agents or mortgage brokers or somebody in the industry, they might have a piece of knowledge that you don't know, and you have a quick conversation with them, and boom, you're that much smarter. And it could really advance your decision making too. So jump to the next one, because
so he talks about learn quickly. Absolutely. Pay yourself first, or self-discipline. Absolutely. Select great people for your team and compensate them generously. That makes sense. Return of investment. We talked about that a little bit. Use money generated by assets to buy luxuries. Yes. As opposed to using your cash flow to buy luxuries. So get the assets first and then the fancy stuff.
Have we hammered that concept home enough? Because
I don't know. You could hammer some more.
Yeah. So in the last little while, I just played the Rich Dad cash flow game. So I think we mentioned this before, but he has a board game, and it's an online version as well called the Cash Flow Game. If you haven't checked it out, you got to go check it out. So there's a lot of different games out there. I'm not huge into games. Like, I don't play board games that frequently, but obviously Monopoly is one that I think a lot of people think of when they think about real estate and money. But this cash flow game is really interesting because it puts some of these concepts in the book into practice in like a really fun, engaging way. And I think we described it before, but you go around in a circle and you try and get out of the rat race. Mm-hmm. And your goal is to buy assets and, take risks, build up passive income so that your income from your investments is greater than your expenses. So you start the game and you get basically a role. So you're like a secretary and you make $3,000 a month, and your expenses are this, and here's your house, and that's what you live in. And then, so you have your income, you have your expenses, and you have your liabilities. So like your mortgage and your car loans or your student loans or whatever. But then every time you go around the board, it's a payday, right? So you get whatever the difference between your income and expenses are.
Yeah.
And then the goal is to try and land on these cards that basically say, is it you can make a deal. So it's a small deal or a big deal, and you make a small deal, and then you can buy a stock, and you have to determine whether it's a good time to buy or sell. And eventually you build up your assets, and those assets generate income for you, and they pay your expenses, and you win the game. You basically get out of the rat race. But I was playing this game and like, it's really fun to play around with it and see what level of risk works well, right? Like if I do this deal, that would be good. But you just strap yourself for cash, right? You buy all the stocks, or you buy a house that maybe you just can barely afford, and then something bad happens, right? And in the game, I think one of the expenses is you had a baby, right? And then your expenses go up, and I think the one game I had like 4 babies, so I don't know. One after the other.
It's a good goal.
Yeah, there you go. But they have costs, right? So, he kind of, I don't want to say indoctrinates you, but does a really good job of illustrating the power of taking risks that are calculated and buying assets, and then using those assets to fund all of your expenses and liabilities. So I encourage everyone to go check out the game. If you have never played it before, try it for 20 minutes and see if you can get out of the rat race, because I think it will start changing your mindset a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Anyways, I kind of want to go play the game right now.
Not now, Brent. Focus.
All right, focus.
We have a podcast. Okay, a couple other things from chapter 8. Have a role model. That makes good sense as well. And then finally, he says, realize that if you want something, you need to give something first, which is interesting. And that's generally, he's applying that towards like your group of friends or associates where, if you want to actually get something from somebody else, you got to provide some value to them first so that they see the value of giving to you. So, yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Chapter 9, he's got some to-dos. So chapter 8, I think, is more like not intangible, but more soft skills. And then chapter 9 is like, here's some things that actually
you can do.
Yeah.
All right, what are they? Because I need to do something to improve my financial well-being, Mark.
Well, stop what you're doing.
Okay, why?
Take a break and assess what is and isn't working.
Oh, that's the first thing you got to do.
That's the first thing you do. Yeah. Look, and again, I'm not going to go through these in depth.
Is just going to stop what they're doing.
But
unemployment's just going to spike, Mark.
I think maybe for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Not, do it on your lunch
If you're
break.
currently working, well,
keep working.
Yeah.
No, but it's good to sit back and like figure out like what is working for me and what is not. Because too often, like you said, you kind of live life on autopilot.
Yeah.
And you just get through the week and then take a breather and then start again.
Well, and that's the definition of insanity, right? That you keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, maybe people just keep doing the same thing and they're not expecting a different result, but maybe they kind of wish there was.
Yeah.
But anyways, just assess. Look for new ideas, finding resources on different and unique subjects, sure.
Hey, that means tuning into our podcast.
Exactly. Find a mentor. So, makes sense. Always be learning. I like that one for sure. You can always learn stuff, even if you're an expert in your industry.
Yeah. The
most successful people always learn from others because there's always somebody who's thought of something you haven't, right? Even if it's an established field. Make lots of offers, always with escape clauses, because eventually someone will say yes. So I'm kind of doing that right now with our...
Yeah, that's specifically related to real estate, right?
Yes.
So...
yeah, I guess. I mean, you could apply that to other business ventures too, right? Always keep stuff... Make sure you can get out of the offer, I guess. But
I was just thinking of asking your boss for a raise. So always be asking for a raise. Hey, good morning, boss. Can I have a raise today? No. Oh.
No, but it could mean like applying to different jobs.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to take them, but maybe I don't know. But specifically he was talking about real estate.
Yeah.
Make sure you do your math and make those offers where it's advantageous for you, and not everybody's going to take them. That's sort of the thing about real estate, right? Is there's no real black and white.
Yeah.
Every house, every purchase is a different situation, a different opportunity. And what one person might agree to, the next person absolutely would not, would disagree with. So they're all different.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting about real estate is that if you see a deal come up and you're like, oh, that's a good deal, I'm going to buy it. And then you miss it. Like, that house is not gone forever. That house is still there, and the seller might sell it next year. Like, right?
Yeah.
So, and they might be more motivated, or like, you never know what could happen, right? With every single property.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And there's a price for every single property too.
Yeah.
Right. So like whoever owns it is likely willing to sell it at a certain price. So,
even if it's not on the market.
Yeah.
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 So if you can figure out that value, and it's true because there's some deals that we've made offers on, weren't accepted, but I'm still watching them.
Yeah.
Just to see like, are they going to come back?
We had one where we offered and it got rejected, and it sold, and then it fell through, and we offered again, and the exact same thing happened. Like we didn't get it, and someone else got it, and then it fell through, and we offered again for less, and we got it. And it took probably 2 months for that to happen, but we were like, this was the opportunity we wanted, and it's a great property, but it took a long time to find it, and once we got it, it was just like this emotional roller coaster. Like, ooh, this is gonna work. Right? But I think there's definitely advice there for people to continue to persevere.
And don't be discouraged. A lot of people will say no. Eventually somebody says yes. You just need that one.
Well, people even get discouraged about the weather. Like, we've had a lot of rain, and I just look at the weather and I'm like, okay, well, whatever, we need rain.
That's true. What a thing to get.
You can't change it.
Get upset about, right? Yeah. Look for the silver lining on those rain clouds.
Because it's coming for you.
Yeah, he talks about spending time every month, just looking around a certain area, again, applying to real estate and looking for changes, like just getting to know an area. So yeah, local real estate knowledge, invaluable. Shop for deals in the market corrects. Yeah, makes sense. Learn when, how, and where to buy by investing in your education. So yeah, make sure you're always learning more. Think bigger to get richer. Sure. Yeah, what else? Buy a bigger pie. So most people only look for what they can afford. So he's saying find a deal and then make that work. So if it's more than you can buy.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because how do you do that?
Well, so I don't know, and maybe I should listen to this because I've seen I've seen a few deals.
Yeah.
In where we're looking, and that are good deals, but they're just like they're out of my price range.
Yeah.
So maybe what I need to do is just get some investors, because I've had people say like, "Hey, let us know when you're, when you're down in the States, and we'd be interested in buying too." But I'm like, I just want to get that first deal and get it figured out. But deals will come up.
Yeah.
And maybe it's way more than you can afford, but
still a good deal.
And he's of the opinion, Kiyosaki, I think, of lock in the deal and then go find investors to help you out with it. So
make it work.
Yeah. So that's what that's about. What else? Negotiate volume discounts. Yep. Read and learn from history. Action always beats inaction. Sort of the final one. And I found that to be true as well, right? Inaction, like the result from inaction, nothing.
Yeah.
Generally. Or things get worse.
Wait, don't things fall out of the sky out of your lap?
Not very. Maybe a fish if there's like some weird rain cloud. You never seen that where it's raining fish in an area or other weird things?
Not in Dr. Seuss books I read to my kids. Actually, the Oobleck. You ever read that book?
No, I think it's been a while.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways, no, you
Maybe
can
talk about that book next time.
Yeah, that'll be our next book review, Dr. Seuss.
All right.
No, where you get like a weird weather pattern where it'll like suck up part of a lake,
and then
there's fish in there, and then it gets deposited somewhere else.
So until that happens to you, you have to take action.
Exactly. And
but what does action look like? Because people say that
it's doing something, and sometimes it's the wrong thing. And I've seen that in business as well, like not just real estate.
Because let's say you wake up in the morning and today is the day I'm going to take action, Mark. What does that look like? Like I just have to go to work and then I have to do my job. And then when I come home, I got responsibilities.
Yeah.
So what does action look like? This quote unquote action, like,
well, it starts, it's kind of a cop out, but it starts before, right? So all these things that he's talking about, right? Surround yourself with the right people, educate yourself, always be learning, get to know an area. Like you have to do all that stuff before you can take action. You have to do all the prep before you can actually do the thing that you're looking to do. So if that's in real estate, which is what we're talking about, that would mean going out and making an offer on a place, right? But you don't just jump out blindly and do that. You need to know the basics.
So basically you're saying action for me, like if I'm starting from zero and I'm waking up in the morning, like could be buy a book and read it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the precursor to action, but maybe for some people that's action. If they've never read a book before,
right,
that's action, right? For you read a lot. Yeah. That may just be getting ready to do the action. Maybe we're making too much of this, but but I think that the point is like if you're in a rut, to change that rut and to do something different, and maybe that starts with just
when you said it could be a mistake,
and it could be a mistake. So
don't be worried, don't be scared about that.
No, you have to make mistakes if you want to have experience, right? I think we talked about that last time, right? Kiyosaki said he's never met a rich person that didn't lose money.
Yeah.
Sometimes mistakes include your cameras turning off in the middle of the podcast.
But we're taking action.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, feedback. Yeah, but like I've seen that again in business as well, right? Sometimes you have to make a decision, and maybe it's not the right decision.
Lose money.
And yeah, maybe you lose money, but you have to, like a leader especially has to, you can't just be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You have to take action, especially with the people following you. They, if you want to lose respect, be wishy-washy. Don't make decisions. We're going to go on a
tangent and talk about all the mistakes we've made and how much they costed. Can I start?
We said it was going to be a short podcast, Brent.
Yeah. Well, but hindsight is 20/20 in all of these situations, right?
Exactly.
You make a decision, you're like, you know what, this is to be pretty good, and then no, you didn't make a good decision, and then, but now something you didn't, so you can make a better decision next time. If you never took action, well, you'd still be in the same position you were before, and maybe the decision got more expensive. And we could talk about inflation and why the decision got more expensive, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole topic on business leadership and that kind of thing. But the point is, take action.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Do something. And especially when it applies to real estate, right? We've talked about analysis paralysis, right? Where people are like, okay, and I'm sure you've seen lots of people like that too. Like, they want to get into real estate and they're looking at deals, but they can just never pull the trigger because it's not like the perfect deal.
I see more people who don't necessarily even look at deals, but who just are thinking about what to invest in, right? And before they even consider like real estate they might even say real estate is the thing, but just where do you start? You're paralyzed in the sense that like, this is just like, what do I even do?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where, call us up. Well, definitely read this book, play the game.
Yeah.
And it'll start changing your mindset. And I definitely think it will start spurring people on to making some more better financial decisions.
Yeah. But in general, if you think of like people who are quote unquote successful, right? They're doing stuff.
Yeah.
They're moving, they're in action. They're not just like living a sort of a, I can't think of the word.
Complacent?
But a complacent life where, you talked about that cycle, right? You get up, go to work.
Lackadaisical.
Order a pizza, play your video games, and rinse and repeat and do the same thing every day. And we really beat up on people.
All right, so what do we actually think about this book, Mark? Because we did touch on a few things that we think about throughout the podcast, so we did on it. We definitely think it's a good book for people to read. If you've never read anything financial, like you can get into financial concepts and economics and like educate yourself with kind of textbook style reading.
Yeah.
Or you can go into like a self-help business. Like if you look at books out there to read, there's like the self-help category that's really, like from a Christian perspective, it's very self-centric, right?
Yeah.
And increasingly so. But this book seems to be one that I think it's more easy to navigate. Like it's written to, what do we say, the average American?
Yeah.
What are they at, a grade 3 level?
3 to 5 or something.
3 to 5.
Reading level.
That just blows me away. But yeah, that it's easy to read, right?
Yeah.
And it's a story format, so it definitely engages you, and it gets the concepts in a simple way that you can kind of remember.
Yeah.
I mean, we're struggling to remember in this podcast.
No, but you're right. And so there is a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. But if you read it superficially, like if you just read the text and you go, oh, well, that's the law. Okay. Like it does lead to materialism and greed, right?
Yeah. And we see that so much in the real estate world, right? Where people, they're smart, they make good decisions. They, follow some of the concepts in the book very well, and they end up doing well. But it's still just an empty life.
Yeah.
Because
like
at the end of
sometimes it sickens me, but other times it like saddens me because you did so well in the eyes of the world, in the success measures of the world, in the things that, this book, for example, would say are successful, but you lost eternity or you aren't living with the full joy of that.
Yeah. And like, what have you gained?
Yeah.
You're the same person you were then now, but you're richer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. You got some financial security, but nothing about you has changed.
Yeah.
Often, I find, right?
So we want to definitely make sure people aren't falling into that trap, because you can read this stuff and fall into that, I think, quite easily.
Yeah, I think it is the same for so much worldly wisdom, right? Things that you can learn, even if you're going through the education system, right? You have to have your sort of spiritual glasses on when you're reading everything.
Yeah.
To understand, like, this is good practical knowledge, good, worldly wisdom, we'll call it, to be able to do well sort of on this plane, right? On the physical plane of things. And we've talked about that before, being good stewards, where we want to use the gifts that we receive in this physical existence to do well, and to do well, for ourselves, but for others, for God, like understanding it's not ours, it belongs to God. And then when you have that mindset and those spiritual glasses on, you read something like this, then you quickly can see, like, here's how I can do well with that. But like the whole underlying concept is really serving myself or serving Mammon. And if you don't have those glasses on, then what else would you do? You would follow this. And I mean, I see a lot of people I'm sure it's everywhere, but in the real estate space, where you see people kind of get successful, right? And then they start to realize, like, oh, there's some other things I need to change in my life too. But usually that revolves around physical fitness, right? Getting myself in shape so that I can be around longer to enjoy my money, or for my kids or family.
First you get the wealth, and then you try and focus on the health to enjoy it.
Yeah, and then, okay, I need to improve my mind, right? And people will get into... or my spirituality. So they do meditation and all kind of, like, just dance in circles around. Yeah, it's all about the self. Yeah. Right? In the guise of spirituality. Yeah. And like we know eventually that's just sort of empty. Yeah. So
that's the whole book of Ecclesiastes, right? Vanity and meaningless, fleeting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like vanity.
Chasing after the wind.
Yeah, vanity isn't the best
the wind
translation.
Is going all over the place these days.
Yeah, because I think the word for vanity, I can't remember what it is in Hebrew now, but it's actually smoke.
Okay,
is really what it means. So saying smoke, everything is smoke, isn't the most poetic, right? Vanity sounds much better, but it's there. Yeah, like I tried to grab it, but I missed. Yeah. Like it's there, but you can't really grab it. Yeah. You can see it, it's there, but you can't have it, right? Yeah. And that's an allegory for everything in this world, I think. Yeah. So, what do you think, Brent?
I agree. And I'm thinking other things about this book too, because one criticism I think I've heard is that Robert, he often demeans people.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's pretty bold and, like, whatever. You say rich dad, stupid dad, but he pretty much demeans people who kind of follow the system. Yeah. So, in a sense, it's a motivational book, right? It's not necessarily, he's not really a financial expert per se. Like, he has been successful in his endeavors, but, he's kind of just trying to motivate people to see things a different way and take from it what you will. But if it changes your financial life for the better, maybe so you can use some of these concepts, right? But I think if you're following the herd and you're comfortable doing that, this might not be the book for you, because you might feel slighted, right?
Well, maybe it's what you need to get you out of that.
Yeah. So there's kind of two ways to look at it. But
that brings up another.
It might be a little bit unfair the way he goes about it.
It brings up another point too, though, right? Because even if you follow Kiyosaki on social media or whatever, like I think he's going a little bit off the deep end, right? But he is kind of that brash.
Yeah, I don't follow him, but
yeah, well, he is that kind of brash, like even in the book, right? Yeah. Savers are losers, right? So again, from a Christian perspective, we can do things differently and we can think we're bettering ourselves, but you can't, like, look down on other people like that.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you
treat them with contempt.
Yeah, that's just not a way to live life and a way to look at people,
humble?
Right?
You're not being humble in the sense.
Yeah.
And that could be a big motivation for you too, right? If you are coming from a place of, I want to seek to better other people and be generous, well, you had to build them up first before you be more critical of their life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think he obviously doesn't know personally people, and he's not throwing certain people under the bus. He's just saying in general.
Sort of is throwing his dad under the bus.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, that's not good either. So
no.
Anything else?
Yeah, it's just just in that vein, it's sort of like that saying, right? Have fun staying poor, where people think they've discovered something, and maybe they have, but we see that in certain circles, right? Where it's just sort of that idea of throwing up your hands when you've argued with somebody about something for a while.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, you're not going to listen, whatever. Have fun staying poor.
Yeah.
And I'll see you later, right? Like, just not the right attitude.
I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I am rich, or I'm going to be rich, I'm better than you.
Yeah. So
right? The Bible has a lot to say about that. Like, no.
I'm not going to associate with you. I'm going to associate with other people who are better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always the temptation, right? When we're dealing with money, when we're dealing with building wealth.
Yeah.
Is that like, well, I've done this and I'm better than you. Yeah. When really a lot of the time it's just, there is some learning and some things that happen, but a lot of it is opportunities that come your way.
Yeah.
That other people may not have had. And like, who are you to say that because you had those opportunities, some people would call it luck. You had a little more luck than someone else. Does that make you better than them? No, just different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So,
and is the point to be better than other people, or?
Yeah, it kind of is for a lot of the self-help stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Be better than other people, and then only surround yourself with the same kind of people as you.
Yeah.
And it's all couched in terms of, being safe and nice language, but at the end of it, it's I don't think that's what it's about. So,
all right, we'll add that dead horse to the pile.
Yeah. So, I think in summary, it's there's some great practical insight and definitely some stuff to learn in this book. But, as always, there's only one book, the Bible, that should be your guiding force in life. And everything else.
Yeah, so maybe we advise people to listen to this episode of the podcast at 2 or 3 times speed and then go read the book. How's that to wrap it up? And next time we're going to get into something completely different, but still related to kind of what we're talking about.
Exactly, as we often do. Well, thanks for listening, folks. Until next time, steward your wealth wisely.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
And if you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.